Hello, dear viewer, and thank you for joining me on day 56 of reading the Bible together. Today we are reading Leviticus chapter 21 and 22 from the Old Testament, as well as Mark chapter 2, verse 18 to 28, and chapter 3, verse 1 to 12 from the New Testament. Let's start. Leviticus chapter 21. The holiness of the priests. The Lord commanded Moses to tell the Aaronite priests, "No priest is to make himself ritually unclean by taking part in the funeral ceremonies when a relative dies, unless it is his mother, father, son, daughter, brother, or unmarried sister living in his house. He shall not make himself unclean at the death of those related to him by marriage. No priest shall shave any part of his head, or trim his beard, or cut gashes on his body, to show that he is in mourning. He must be holy and must not disgrace my name. He offers food offerings to me, and he must be holy. A priest shall not marry a woman who has been a prostitute, or a woman who is not a virgin, or who is divorced. He is holy. The people must consider the priest holy, because he presents the food offerings to me. I am the Lord, I am holy, and I make my people holy. If a priest's daughter becomes a prostitute, she disgraces her father. She shall be burned to death. The high priest has had the anointing oil poured on his head, and has been consecrated to wear the priestly garments, so he must not have his hair uncombed, or tear his clothes to show that he is in mourning. He has been dedicated to me, and is not to make himself ritually unclean, nor is he to defile my sacred tent by leaving it and entering a house where there is a dead person, even if it is his own father or mother. He shall marry a virgin, not a widow or a divorced woman, or a woman who has been a prostitute. He shall marry only a virgin from his own clan. Otherwise his children, who ought to be holy, will be ritually unclean. I am the Lord, and I have set him apart as the high priest." The Lord commanded Moses to tell Aaron, "None of your descendants who has any physical defects may present the food offering to me. This applies for all time to come. No man with any physical defect may make the offering. No one who is blind, lame, disfigured, or deformed. No one with a crippled hand or foot. No one who is a hunchback or a dwarf. No one with any eye or skin disease, and no eunuch. No descendant of Aaron the priest who has any physical defects may present the food offering to me. Such a man may eat the food offered to me, both the holy food offering and the very holy food offering. But because he has a physical defect, he shall not come near the sacred curtain or approach the altar. He must not profane these holy things, because I am the Lord, and I make them holy." This then is what Moses said to Aaron, the sons of Aaron, and to all the people of Israel. Leviticus chapter 22. The holiness of the offering. The Lord commanded Moses to tell Aaron and his sons, "You must not bring disgrace on my holy name, so treat with respect the sacred offerings that the people of Israel dedicate to me. I am the Lord. If any of your descendants, while he is ritually unclean, comes near the sacred offerings which the people of Israel have dedicated to me, he can never again serve at the altar. This applies for all time to come. I am the Lord. None of the descendants of Aaron who has a dreaded skin disease or a discharge may eat any of the sacred offerings until he is ritually clean. Any priest is unclean if he touches anything which is unclean through contact with a corpse, or if he has an emission of semen, or if he has touched an unclean animal or person. Any priest who becomes unclean remains unclean until evening, and even then he may not eat any of the sacred offerings until he has taken a bath. After the sun sets, he is clean, and then he may eat the sacred offerings, which are his food. He shall not eat the meat of any animal that has died a natural death, or has been killed by wild animals, it will make him unclean. I am the Lord. All priests shall observe the regulations that I have given. Otherwise they will become guilty and die, because they have disobeyed the sacred regulations. I am the Lord, and I make them holy. Only a member of a priestly family may eat any of the sacred offerings. No one else may eat them, not even someone staying with a priest or hired by him. But a priest's slaves, bought with his own money or born in his home, may eat the food the priest receives. A priest's daughter who marries someone who is not a priest may not eat any of the sacred offerings. But a widowed or divorced daughter who has no children and who has returned to live in her father's house as a dependent may eat the food her father receives as a priest. Only a member of a priestly family may eat any of it. If any people who are not members of a priestly family eat any of the sacred offerings without intending to, they must repay the priest its full value plus an additional 20%. The priest shall not profane the sacred offerings by letting any unauthorized people eat them. This would bring guilt and punishment on such people. I am the Lord, and I make the offerings holy. The Lord commanded Moses to give Aaron and his sons and all the people of Israel the following regulations. When any Israelite or any foreigner living in Israel presents a burnt offering, whether as fulfillment of a vow or as a free will offering, the animal must not have any defects. To be accepted, it must be a male without any defects. If you offer any animal that has any defects, the Lord will not accept it. When anyone presents a fellowship offering to the Lord, whether as fulfillment of a vow or as a free will offering, the animal must be without any defects if it is to be accepted. Do not offer to the Lord any animal that is blind or crippled or mutilated, or that has a running sore or a skin eruption or scabs. Do not offer any such animals on the altar as a food offering. As a free will offering, you may offer an animal that is stunted or not perfectly formed, but it is not acceptable in fulfillment of a vow. Do not offer to the Lord any animal whose testicles have been crushed, cut, bruised, or torn off. This is not permitted in your land. Do not offer as a food offering any animal obtained from a foreigner. Such animals are considered defective and are not acceptable. When a calf or a lamb or a kid is born, it must not be taken from its mother for 7 days, but after that it is acceptable as a food offering. Do not sacrifice a cow and its calf, or a sheep and its lamb, or a goat and its kid on the same day. When you offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving to the Lord, follow the rules so that you will be accepted. Eat it the same day and leave none of it until the next morning. The Lord said, Obey my commands, I am the Lord. Do not bring disgrace on my holy name. All the people of Israel must acknowledge me to be holy. I am the Lord, and I make you holy, and I brought you out of Egypt to become your God. I am the Lord. Please feel free to pause the video here for time to reflect on what we have read. Let's continue. Mark chapter 2 verse 18 to 28. The question about fasting. On one occasion, the followers of John the Baptist and the Pharisees were fasting. Some people came to Jesus and asked him, Why is it that the disciples of John the Baptist and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but yours do not? Jesus answered, Do you expect the guests at a wedding party to go without food? Of course not. As long as the bridegroom is with them, they will not do that. But the day will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one uses a piece of new cloth to patch up an old coat, because the new patch will shrink and tear off some of the old cloth, making an even bigger hole. Nor does anyone pour new wine into used wineskins, because the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the skins will be ruined. Instead, new wine must be poured into fresh wineskins. The question about the Sabbath. Jesus was walking through some wheat fields on a Sabbath. As his disciples walked along with him, they began to pick the heads of wheat. So the Pharisees said to Jesus, "Look, it is against our law for your disciples to do that on the Sabbath." Jesus answered, "Have you never read what David did that time when he needed something to eat? He and his men were hungry, so he went into the house of God and ate the bread offered to God. This happened when Abiathar was the high priest. According to our law, only the priests may eat this bread, but David ate it and even gave it to his men." And Jesus concluded, "The Sabbath was made for the good of human beings. They were not made for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." Mark chapter 3, verse 1 to 12. The man with the paralyzed hand. Then Jesus went back to the synagogue, where there was a man who had a paralyzed hand. Some people were there who wanted to accuse Jesus of doing wrong, so they watched him closely to see whether he would cure the man on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man, "Come up here to the front." Then he asked the people, "What does our law allow us to do on the Sabbath? To help or to harm? To save someone's life or to destroy it?" But they did not say a thing. Jesus was angry as he looked around at them, but at the same time he felt sorry for them, because they were so stubborn and wrong. Then he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and it became well again. So the Pharisees left the synagogue and met at once with some members of Herod's party, and they made plans to kill Jesus. A crowd by the lake. Jesus and his disciples went away to Lake Galilee, and a large crowd followed him. They had come from Galilee, from Judea, from Jerusalem, from the territory of Idumea, from the territory on the east side of the Jordan, and from the region around the cities of Tyre and Sidon. All these people came to Jesus because they had heard of the things he was doing. The crowd was so large that Jesus told his disciples to get a boat ready for him, so that the people would not crush him. He had healed many people, and all the sick kept pushing their way to him in order to touch him. And whenever the people who had evil spirits in them saw him, they would fall down before him and scream, "You are the Son of God." Jesus sternly ordered the evil spirits not to tell anyone who he was. Please feel free to pause the video here for time to reflect on what we have read. And that's it for today, and I hope that you'll join me in the next video. Wishing you a graceful morning, day, or evening.